to be here to talk about H.R. 1633. It's an honor to be here with Representative Noem, and I appreciate her leadership on this as well. I represent Virginia's 5th District, a primarily rural area which includes most of central and south side Virginia and is larger than the state of New Jersey. In the 5th District, we have a proud heritage in agriculture, manufacturing, and other resource-based industries that provide good-paying jobs for thousands of Virginians. Dust is a necessary byproduct of the hard work the farmers and businesses in my rural district perform every day. These are the people who are struggling to survive, to grow, and to create jobs during the stalled economic recovery. That is why the EPA's National Standard for Fugitive Dust, which falls under the Clean Air Act's National Ambient Air Quality Standards for coarse particulate matter, is so troubling to the people that I represent. It is yet another example of the expansion of federal government and the uncertainty that Washington continues to impose upon our family farms, our small businesses, and our rural communities. That is why H.R. 1633 is necessary. The bipartisan legislation will help create a better economic environment for job creation by replacing the current federal standard for dust that comes from driving on unpaved roads, working in agricultural fields, and similar activities in rural America. H.R. 1633 provides relief from the more stringent federal standard for coarse particulate matter recommended in the April 2011 policy assessment prepared by the EPA staff. It also gives states and localities the flexibility to set a standard for dust if they choose. More important, it keeps the federal government out of the business of overregulating naturally occurring dust unless the EPA can prove substantial adverse public health effects caused by dust and can provide a rigorous cost-benefit analysis on the need for such regulation. While I applaud EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson's recent promise that she will not propose a more stringent standard for coarse particulate matter, I remain concerned about the uncertainty of the rulemaking process where these rules can be modified. I'm also troubled by the comments of some of the administration officials to discredit the issue of federal dust regulation, including the Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack, who wrote that the regulation, and this is in quotes, the regulation of farm dust is another frequently repeated myth. After reviewing the EPA's 2006 federal standards for coarse particulate matter, which by definition includes dust, I respectfully disagree with the statement that this is a myth. I know that farmers and business owners in the 5th District disagree with this assessment of dust regulation as well. When traveling in the 5th District last year, I spoke with a small business owner who was warned by a state regulator about the amount of dust that was coming off of his property. When the business owner questioned further about the regulator's concern over this dust, the regulator replied that the business needed to take active measures to decrease the dust coming from the dirt driveway leading in and out of his facility. It also appears that the Sierra Club would take issue with the administration's statements that federal dust regulations are a myth as well. When discussing a petition it filed with the Virginia Air Pollution Control Board in my home state, which was ultimately dismissed, by the way, the Sierra Club alleged that the levels of dust it measured on a road in southwest Virginia were above the national health-based standard promulgated by the EPA. It's difficult to understand why the Sierra Club would take such action if the federal government mandates for fugitive dust are a myth. While it is true that the EPA and state regulatory agencies have not set up monitors at every family farm and every unpaved road, the Sierra Club has shown one way in which these national standards for dust regulation continue to provide uncertainty for rural America. Because of these dust regulations, rural farming and business operations can face the threat of unnecessary harassment, regulation, and litigation by private actors or state and federal regulators. Additionally, companies throughout the 5th District and the country are required to comply with the federal standard for dust in order to obtain permits such as those issued by the Virginia Department of Environmental Equality as required by its state implementation plan with the EPA. This is why Congress must act in a bipartisan fashion to pass H.R. 1633 and assure our farmers and our rural industries that naturally occurring dust will not be the subject of expanded federal regulation. When it comes to dust, the EPA and the federal government should not mandate a one-size-fits-all standard that could eventually lead to lost production. With unemployment rates nearing 20% in some areas of Virginia's 5th District, we simply cannot afford to continue to perpetuate unnecessary regulations and uncertainty for the farmers and businesses in our rural communities. I thank the chairman and I thank the ranking member for inviting us to appear. I thank the subcommittee for considering our bill. I appreciate the opportunity to testify this morning and look forward to any questions.